Hey guys, it's Tom Box. Welcome to MST.TV. We're doing a ruling segment today on something that's going to be relevant in the near future. In fact, it's actually relevant throughout the rest of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because a lot of the cards these days, they have multiple effects and you get to choose one. In this video, we're going to clarify one thing. When do you actually choose first? And then when do you actually choose during resolution? We're going to compare the wordings between those and the application of how other cards interact with it, like Ash Blossom Joy Spring. Can I ash my opponent's effect? Well, this is what we're going to talk about. The reason why we need clarity on this ruling is because it generates a misrepresented game state and a procedural error together, causing someone to gain significant advantage in information that the other guy is not really supposed to have. A common example of this is the guy that activates Lightning Storm at your locals but does not tell you whether or not he's going for the back row or the front row destruction. So with more back row, you make the assumption that, oh, he's going to be blowing up my back row, so you decide to activate most of them in response just so they can maintain some level of advantage. But your opponent decided to go last minute during resolution, I'm blowing up your monsters. Because you already got rid of all your back row, so this way he can actually maximize the advantage that he can get with the Lightning Storm. But here's the thing, that's not proper. First of all, procedural error, he has to declare ahead of time. And once he has declared ahead of time, he can't really change the fact, and since he's steering the course of action, there's a misrepresented game state there because the game state was unclear, and since he got extra information that he's not supposed to have, and now he's going for the one that gives him the most advantage, I feel like there's a lot of problems there because he's basically playing a game of filling in the blank, and it's just a big problem overall. Now, Lightning Storm isn't the only one in history that has this particular issue. There's also Dengirzu. Are you attaching one? Are you sending one? You know, it might change how you respond. If you choose to send one, then you might respond by getting rid of your own monster. But if you didn't really give them that information, you might have preemptively sent away a card and they go like, oh yeah, I'm attaching a card instead. You know, that's not fair because they are fishing for additional information, and this is what it's allowing people to do. But some cards, you know, they're supposed to, you know, resolve and then apply the one effect after the fact. But, you know, it goes both ways. If you resolve it improperly, there's going to be extra information dished out to your opponent. And on that note, you guys can choose to subscribe right now, or you can choose to subscribe later. Those are your only two options for this particular part of the effect. So anyways, let's get to this. For card text comparison, let's start with Triple Tactics Talent. Now, if your opponent activates a monster effect during your main phase this turn, and here's the important part, activate one of these effects, and then semicolon. So that's during the activation. Draw two cards, take control of one monster your opponent controls until the end phase, look at your opponent's hand, and choose one from it to shuffle back into the deck, and you can only activate one Triple Tactics Talent per turn. Okay, so the key part here is the activate one of these effects. That's the key wording, and the punctuation is pretty important. Note where the semicolon is at. It's basically activate one of these effects, semicolon. Those are the ones where you have to choose ahead of time. For examples that include, of course, Lightning Storm. If you control no face-up cards, activate one of these effects. It includes Dugaris. You can detach two materials from this card, then activate one of the following effects, semicolon. Dengirzu. If this card is special summoned, you can activate one of these effects, semicolon. They all have this particular wording. So if the activate wording is before the semicolon, you have to choose which effect that you're going for. This really matters because if you don't choose like the draw two effect, can't ash it. This isn't a card that you can blindly just throw an Ash Blossom Joy Spring on. It really depends on which effect that they're going for. If they're using an effect that does not relate to the deck whatsoever, then there is no way that you can activate that Ash. So in other words, Ash cannot stop the effect from like taking control of someone's monster. And that's actually quite important. The same can be said for Dugaris. If Dugaris isn't going for the drawing effect, you cannot throw an Ash Blossom Joy Spring. If they're going for the double attack, you're going to need a Veiler instead to stop that. Ash doesn't solve all your problems. And as a quick refresher to Nightmare monsters and Ash Blossom Joy Spring, why can you sometimes ash it and sometimes can't? Well, it's because when they are summoned and they are calling on the summon, they're guaranteed to be allowed to draw because they have met that preconditioned effect. The condition has been met. Therefore, the other optional availability to draw is also part of the card text. However, if the condition was not met, then that card drawing part is also not included in the text. Therefore, you cannot use Ash Blossom Joyous Spring to negate the entire effect of the Nightmare monster. As for the card text that would activate and choose the effect upon resolution, we have Doom King Balrog as our example. I'm just going to skip right ahead to the part that matters. Once per chain, when a zombie monster, except for Doom King Balrog, activates its effect, except during the damage step, we have a quick effect, you can apply one of these effects, but you cannot apply the same effect of Doom King Balrog again this turn. Negate that effect, banish one monster from the field or graveyard. Notice that the keyword here is apply one of these effects, and there is no semicolon. Usually this wording is actually after the semicolon. So the other monster that would apply to this would be, say, Time Thief Redoer. That one's probably the more common example. And for an old trap card that has something like this, that is probably one of the most broken trap cards if you can resolve it, we have Furin Kazan. This is the one where you need multiple attributes, but basically you get the ability to destroy all monsters your opponent controls, destroy all spell and trap your opponent controls, randomly discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand, or draw 2 cards. It's the one that requires a wind, water, fire, earth monster on the field to apply one of these effects. And notice the apply one of these effects wording. Again, it's apply. In the context of Ash versus Time Thief Redoer and Furin Kazan, Ash is always going to be able to activate on a Time Thief Redoer or the Furin Kazan. Here's the thing about Time Thief Redoer, because what if I don't even have a spell material? How is it that they're going to know I'm going to draw a card? The thing is, during resolution, you could potentially have something in the chain that would have attached a spell for you to detach, and then you would be able to draw a card in that case. But since there is no guarantee for either player to know whether or not you're going to draw a card or not, so it's going to be read as part of the card text, and as long as it's part of the card text, Ash Blossom Joy Spring will be able to react and negate the effect. Think about it this way: Shaddoll Fusion. Shaddoll Fusion, there is no guarantee that you won't be able to get the effect to send the Shaddoll monsters from the deck. But at the same time, like, even if I have no extra deck monsters on the field, alright? There is a chance where I could have chained something to put an extra deck monster onto the field, and by the time you resolve, you'll be able to send cards. And since we're assuming that by the time you resolve, you have a chance to send it, it is considered as part of the card text, and therefore Ash Blossom can negate that. And same with Furin Kazan. Like, Furin Kazan has that draw 2, and because of that draw 2 card text in there that can be applied, it can also be negated by Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, regardless if you're going to choose to blow up all my monsters or rip 2 cards out of my hand. So in summary, if it says activate one of these effects, semicolon, and then it lists a bunch of effects, you'll have to choose whichever one that you're activating during the activation. However, if it says apply one of these effects, period, and then it lists a bunch of effects, you apply the effect during resolution, and you do not tell your opponent which one that you are activating. There's advantages to both, of course. Now, for the one that you have to choose ahead of time, if you're not choosing a draw-based effect or an effect that revolves around the deck, you know, adding cards to your hand or sending stuff to the grave, as long as you're not activating any of those as one of the ones that you can choose, then you will not be ashable. Ash Blossom Joy Spring will not be able to respond to it. However, for the ones that says apply one of these effects and it includes something to do with the deck, regardless of your intentions to use it or not, you will be ashed regardless, such as Shaddoll Fusion and Time Thief Redoer. Now, I know this segment seemed kind of repetitive, but it's because the question comes up so frequently and it's such a common misplay, especially for newer players. I wanted to drill it into your heads as much as possible so that it's done. We don't have to talk about this anymore. Now, jumping back to Triple Tactics Talents before we close this out, do you guys think this card is actually worth playing? There's 2 schools of thoughts right now. Some people think that it is an amazing card. It is worth playing in every single deck. You know, 3 of the most busted effects in one card. Amazing stuff. Whereas the other people, they think it's actually pretty easy to play around. And do these effects actually matter that much? Well, you know, you guys be the judge of that. You know, is this a main deck or a side deck card? And I guess the last thing I kind of want to know is which of the effects do you think is going to be used the most, or is it deck dependent? Do you want to draw 2 cards to combo more? Do you want to steal an Appaloosa because you can get additional negations, or maybe you want to hand check for that Nibiru, check for any of the other hand traps so that you get a more, I guess, safer turn against your opponent? Well, leave it down in the comment section below. And if you guys have more questions regarding rulings for Dogmaticas or new cards coming out in Rise of the Duelist, also leave those down in the comment section below. Maybe I'll answer in the next video. And that's all I really got for this video. Make sure you guys, of course, at the end of the day, ask your head judge about the information that you need for the ruling that will apply to you. And that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys learned something, got the clarity that you need, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. Don't get rule sharked, and don't let your opponent fish for information that they're not supposed to have. Alright guys, so that's all I got for this video, guys. Make sure you guys smash the thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding notification bell, make sure you set it for all notifications. Check out my TCG player link down in the description and help me out, especially if you guys are going to be picking up some Rise of the Duelist. It really helps me out. And that's all I got for this one. And hopefully when Rise of the Duelist more information comes up, I'm going to go into the full set analysis with Nishi.